Who does not wish for the day that they can finally acquire the house of their dreams? The hero of our story was able to do that, but he sure got more than he ever bargained for. As he started to look around his new property, a man called Christopher literally stumbled into something he never quite expected. He was intrigued as he started to explore the tunnel. At the time, he had no idea that he could not just back out of this. He started to keep going even when he was told by the realtor and cops not to do so. When he was done exploring and had a lot of evidence with him, Christopher knew that the best course of action was to leave and never return. But what was it that this man found on his new property? Before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Christopher Wanless bought a new house recently. The property rested on 16.5 hectares of woodland. Who would not be excited to explore a space that you can call your own? However, he had no idea that there was something waiting for him in the fields of his new land. At any rate, it would seem like fate had this in store for the poor man. He decided to take a tour of the new property and the area that surrounded it. As he started to wander the fields, his mind and body dove into autopilot mode. Without warning, something caught his attention. Almost hidden, it was a dark and small object. Was it simply another tree? Even though that was what he first had in mind, he could tell that he was on the wrong track as he approached it. He felt both terror and excitement as he checked it out some more. That was how he fell into a ditch that was 3 foot high. He was shocked by the fall since it had been covered by leaves and dirt. He shook himself off and took a look at what was right in front of him. He was perplexed by what he saw. Could it be that he just found a mine on the property? The exterior of this mine was covered with a moss-like material, which made it hard to see what was in there. He was excited about this new adventure. He even went back to the house to get a flashlight. However, it did not even occur to him that this would be a terrible mistake. At any rate, he was at the entrance once more. This time, he had his flashlight with him. The walls seemed damp and felt like they were about to give in any minute now. The footsteps he made echoed through the structure. He came towards the walls and brushed the sparkling material of the walls with his hand. Christopher recalled wondering, what if this was gold? Soon enough, however, this would be the last thing on his mind. Even though the weather was nice outside, it was cold and damp inside the mine. He also noticed that he left 4-inch marks on the soil with every step he made. It seemed like there was a water source in there since he found water puddles. He used the flashlight to be able to see what was lying ahead of him. However, he was unable to see where the tunnel ends. He knew that there must be something or someone in the mine because all of a sudden he heard noises in the tunnel. Intrigued, Christopher started to go to where the noise was coming from. He had no idea that this would be the wrong thing to do. He continued to walk down the mine but did not see any warmth, light, or air movement. The flashlight was in his hand, and Christopher was holding it like it was a sword. He could hear the noise getting louder. Along the path, he heard old machinery and metal parts moving around. Christopher's journey into the mine took a chilling turn when he began hearing strange voices. Though he couldn't understand them, his curiosity pushed him deeper into the darkness. The temperature suddenly dropped, and a stronger negative presence loomed ahead. After traveling about 150 feet, he turned back, only to be shocked by what he saw. A chain was swinging violently from the ceiling, moving with force. This was no mere gust of wind. Someone or something was watching him. Panic set in, and he rushed toward the entrance, desperate to escape. As he made his way out, he called the real estate agent to report his experience. The agent assured him that someone would investigate. The next day, Christopher was told the estate had numerous mines, and mining activity had been common in the area. Though the explanation provided some comfort, it did little to ease his anxiety. As he stood in his kitchen, the lights suddenly began flickering, and a cold breeze swept through the room. He attempted to adjust the thermostat, only to find it ineffective. The temperature had dropped significantly, and his breath was visible in the cold air. He checked the circuit breaker, thinking it was a wiring issue, but found nothing wrong. Relieved, he decided to take a break and have a glass of water. Just then, the doorbell rang. Standing on his doorstep was Mr. Rudall, a man sent by the realtor to investigate the mine. Rudall had heard about Christopher's discovery and was eager to see the site for himself. Christopher warned him to be cautious as they made their way toward the mine, where the sky had begun to darken with the threat of rain. The two men examined the mine together, their flashlights illuminating the sparkling substance on the walls. Rudall was visibly excited and suggested that this mine might have been a gold mine, abandoned long ago by the miners. According to Rudel, it was rare to find untouched gold in such a place. This left Christopher wondering why the miners had left the gold behind. Rudel spoke of rumors surrounding mines from the turn of the century, but this was the first gold mine he had encountered. Despite the potential wealth, Christopher felt a sense of unease. He couldn't shake the feeling that the mine might be haunted. He debated whether to investigate further, torn between the allure of gold and the terrifying possibility that the mine was cursed. Determined to find answers, Christopher prepared for a return to the mine. He grabbed his flashlight and spare batteries, stepping back into the darkness, unsure of what awaited him. Christopher had ventured deep into the mine, determined to find answers. At 600 feet, he came across a door, and as the water splashed against his face, he knocked, though he didn't expect a response. When he opened the door, he was shocked by what he found. The room felt like a completely different world, cold and rough against his skin. Despite the nice weather outside, the mine's interior was freezing, and a sense of dread grew inside him. He noticed a pile of decrepit objects, including a rusty bed spring, which suggested someone had been living there. He realized that this wasn't just an abandoned mine. Someone had been hiding there. His curiosity led him to a brick hideout, but there was no comfort in this discovery. What was more unsettling were the white scratches etched into the brick walls. The lines were deep enough to be made by fingers, not tools. Who had been trapped here? As he inspected the walls more closely, he discovered that the scratches weren't just random lines, there was a message. He documented it with his camera, intending to study it later, but as he turned to leave, a loud noise interrupted his thoughts. He pointed his flashlight toward the sound, but saw nothing. Then he felt a cold breeze, followed by the unmistakable sound of metal moving. Suddenly, a chill swept through him, and the eerie atmosphere intensified. Panicking, Christopher ran. His body screamed for him to stay calm, but fear propelled him out of the mine. As soon as he escaped, he collapsed on the ground, struggling to catch his breath. In the aftermath, Christopher questioned what he had just experienced. A gold mine untouched for so long? It seemed too good to be true. Trying to regain his composure, he hurried home, but the entire area felt unnervingly still, as if the trees and air matched the tension in his mind. Running faster, he could feel the weight of something sinister trailing behind him. Once home, he locked himself in his study and turned to the internet for answers. Searching for haunted mines, he was struck by goosebumps when he realized the mine's presence might have followed him. Was it all in his mind? Suddenly, whispers filled the room. Turning around, he found nothing, but the chill in the air intensified. Just then, his search results appeared. To rid yourself of paranormal activity, you must face it. Could he confront whatever haunted the mine and his life? Before he could process this, there were 3 knocks at the door. A lump formed in his throat as he cautiously approached the door and asked, "Hello?" As he turned the handle, he heard a strange whirring sound coming from his camera, which had been off. Something even stranger was happening, and Christopher wasn't sure if he could escape it. Christopher returned to the mine, determined to face whatever haunted him. As he descended deeper, the darkness was overwhelming. The tunnel felt colder, and his flashlight seemed to flicker erratically. A powerful cold gust hit him, stronger than before, followed by the sound of clinking metal. Though terrified, he pressed on. The noise grew louder, closer. Christopher covered his ears as the sound intensified, almost unbearable. He was desperate to escape, but couldn't shake the eerie presence. When the noise stopped, an unnatural silence filled the air. That's when he saw the chains hanging from the ceiling, swinging wildly as if alive. He was paralyzed in both awe and terror. Then, a flood of water surged toward him, like a tsunami. Frantically, he ran for the mine's exit, his heart pounding in his chest. Reaching the outside, he glanced back but saw no trace of the water. It was as if it had never existed. Only his footprints remained. Relieved to be out of the mine, Christopher began his trek home, but something was off. The lights in his kitchen were on, though he was sure he hadn't left them. He walked in, but the house was empty. He tried to brush off the feeling as he returned to his study to look for answers. Doubt crept in as he wondered whether everything he experienced was real. He began typing on his computer, but before he could find anything, it shut down unexpectedly. He sighed, frustrated, but before he could gather himself, he felt a tug at his feet. Startled, he stumbled backward, horrified. The events had left him drained, physically and mentally. He realized it was time to leave and seek help. Driving to a nearby cafe, he researched paranormal investigators and found 2 options close by. He followed the directions and arrived at a storefront with a sign reading "Tarot Readings." Desperate, he entered the shop, greeted by the scent of incense and a woman dressed in red and purple. She took his hand and began chanting a familiar tune. It was the same sound Christopher had heard in the mine. The melody was unsettling, and as he listened, he realized it was too much to handle. Panic surged within him, and he quickly left the shop. He decided to go to his mother's house and put the property up for sale. Despite offers from developers, he never returned their calls. His mother handled the sale, ready to move on from the mine's dark hold on their lives. There are still a lot of unanswered questions about the story. Did he really see what he claims to have seen in the mine? Did his mind just play tricks on him? Did anyone else try to find out for themselves?